So first, Carson Wentz, has suffered a little bit of an injury. He's poised to be out for 5 to 12 weeks.
The one thing I feel that's weird about this, tell me if I'm dumb, 5 to 12 weeks is like a weird timetable.
It's a very
that's a huge window. That is a huge window.
No, that's like months. And what also is weird is we don't know what the injury is. It's just something is wrong with his foot.
He's getting surgery.
Well, at first he was like, no, I'm not. I'm just going to rehab it. I'm not going to get surgery. And then his coach was like, he's getting surgery. So the Carson Wentz era is off to on the wrong foot. Ha ha ha. But like, that's just such a mess.
You're funny,
to begin.
Theo.
I'm funny, but it's such a mess to begin like this. Like Carson is like, I'm not getting surgery. No one knows what the injury is. No one knows how long he'll be out. Colts are giving off very bad vibes right now.
I do not feel very confident in the Colts right now. And I know, Theo, you were licking your chops about Mariota.
Everything I say comes true, you guys.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by the greatest co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. How are you guys today?
I'm always great, Blaiden. I'm glad to be back in Phoenix after my debacle in San Diego.
We're glad to have you back, man.
I'm excited. It's going to be a good episode.
Yeah. After, Theo was, really down bad in San Diego. We were like getting kind of worried. I can't lie.
Yeah. In the last episode, it's funny to hear me. I'm like going like this and I'm talking like this. I was like exhausted and like I forgot about the podcast. So like I like literally
clinging to life.
I like rolled out of bed and recorded the podcast and I was like kind of out, but I've got you can hear it in my voice. I've got a lot more energy for this one. And we're talking NBA free agency and we're talking NFL award predictions. So I'm excited.
It's a jam-packed episode. It should be a really fun time. But as always, make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave a review, do all the things that you've been doing. We're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, the works. Keep helping us, grow this amazing podcast. And if you haven't yet, make sure you follow @StayHotPod on TikTok for some awesome content there as well. Like Theo mentioned, we have a ton to get into. NFL news. We're going to do some award predictions for the NFL season. But first things first, we're going to start with the NBA free agency. All right, so negotiations, will have started pretty much by the time anyone's listened to this. But right now, it's mostly speculation. So at the moment, I think there's a little bit to talk about. There's Lonzo's deal. There's Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul might be the most interesting one, either that or Kawhi, because I've had a theory that like if anyone's going to make a big free agency push, it would be for Kawhi. But Matt, what are you thinking is the most interesting free agency story right now?
Probably Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan playing together. There's been a lot of rumors that that's what they want to do, and there's a lot of rumors that DeMar DeRozan is willing to take like a mid-level exception to go play with Kyle Lowry or to go play for the Lakers. And if that's true, they could make a really interesting team because Kyle Lowry, if you haven't seen, Woj might have went ahead and dropped a bomb as much as he could without it being considered tampering. Saying that Dragic and Precious Achua, we're going to be signed and traded for Kyle Lowry and bringing him down to Miami. If you get DeRozan there too, that's a really funny team because you'd have a lot of talent and not a ton of spacing because DeRozan, Butler, Bam, I don't know if all three of those guys can be on the court at the same time. So that's something I think would be the most fun thing that could happen in free agency. Who doesn't want to see talented teams that have a weird fit? That's
what I'm saying. It's like talent, is really, I don't think you can ever go wrong with talent. And if you're going to sacrifice talent for the sake of spacing, I don't know if that's necessarily the right move. But again, I'm not the basketball guru here. So.
I kind of think it is. Okay. If you have, the difference is that if you have a team that's not that talented, but a great fit and they don't go win it all, you're like, well, we figured they're not that talented. Like if a team exceeds expectations from their talent, you're going to be like, awesome. But if you put a bunch of talent on a team, well, then the expectations are going to go really high. And then if you don't get there, which maybe is what ends up happening, it looks like you failed when really those two teams could have done the exact same thing. I see it as you got to go get the talent. You can make the fit work, but you can't make it work without the talent.
Yeah. I can see Lowry to the Heat happening for sure. I know that he was in the middle of a bunch of trade rumors at the deadline. The 76ers and the Heat were the ones that I heard the most, and it didn't end up happening. But now that the season's over, I can for sure see those two teams going back to the well. If it happens, I don't know. I mean, DeRozan would have to take, are the Spurs willing to trade him? Are the Heat willing to give up what he's worth to the Spurs? Like that. The logistics of that all happening perfectly, I don't know if that's quite in the favor of the reunion.
Well, the one thing would be like, okay, so you'll hear all this sign and trade stuff for the Spurs, but if DeRozan chooses to take a small amount of money, and the Heat do have a non-taxpayer mid-level exception at around $9 million a year, if he chooses to take that, they don't have to give anything to the Spurs.
Fair, yeah, that's true.
So there is some possibility for that. I know it does seem a little far-fetched to me that DeRozan's just going to take a huge pay cut for the sake of playing with Kyle Lowry and the Heat, but I want to see it happen. I want to see a team with a bunch of talent and no spacing.
Is that like a real rumor? Is it just like
it's like a real rumor? It seems legitimate. I know.
Have they mentioned?
You can go.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the Westbrook didn't seem like a real thing.
Yeah, exactly. That one seemed fake and it happened. This one at least has a little bit of traction. Because if you're DeRozan right now, all the teams that you really want to play for don't have the money to pay big time. And he could go get a bag from like maybe the Mavs or something. But maybe that's not his focus at this point in his career because he's getting up there.
He is.
Yeah, I think as players get older, you start to focus more on winning rings than making money because you've probably made all the money you really need at this point in your career.
Another storyline to watch out for. Speaking of players who want to win rings being older, that is very true, right? All the ring chasers, no one's ring chasing at 23. No one's taking a pay cut on their first big contract.
Right.
Meaning that if you were a team that didn't have any cap space and was competing for a championship, most of what you'd be able to attract is old guys. And the Lakers are very much in that situation. So much so that I think they have the potential to be the oldest team ever. It could happen.
What is the oldest team ever as of now?
The oldest team ever is the 2000-2001 Jazz. They were exactly 32 years old on average.
Their average age was
30.
That's really bad.
Old. That's really old. The Lakers currently have 5 players on the roster. Technically, they have it beat right now. And if they can go, but they got to go pick up some key guys. Like Rudy Gay would be a big get age-wise. He would keep pushing them, farther away from 32. Carmelo Anthony, I mean, he's going to be like 38 next year, 37. So he could help them big time age-wise. And a lot of these guys that they'd go get would be super helpful. But I just think it's a thing to watch out for because if it does happen, it's going to be the storyline the entire year.
What is the oldest team to ever win the finals?
I'm not sure. Maybe the 98 Bulls. But I do know that the Lakers in 2020 were the oldest team in the league when they won a championship. And I tweeted this out and I had some people saying, oh, so you're saying it's bad. No, it's not a bad thing that they're old. But if everybody on the team is like 37, you have to work really hard to make sure that everybody has their legs saved for the playoffs. So it would be another challenge.
If anyone can work on load management with that team, it's LeBron.
That's true. Yeah. And I think having multiple guys who can really run the offense and Westbrook and LeBron and, Anthony Davis, maybe Anthony Davis doesn't run the offense in the same way as those two other guys, should help him somewhat. But I just think it'll be interesting to see how that team looks in the next couple of days.
It'll be interesting. This might be what, I don't want to make like a bold prediction or anything, but we could see like LeBron take like less minutes than we're used to seeing him do.
I don't think that's a bold take. The 2000 Jazz won 53 games, and it was with a 38-year-old John Stockton and a 37-year-old Karl Malone, just for some context. But let's move on into like Lonzo Ball. That's one guy who's getting a lot of like talk right now about, he'll move on from the Pelicans. I've seen a sign-in trade with your Hornets, Matt, but the location that I've seen him most rumored to is Chicago.
I'd like to see him at Chicago. I don't think it's very reasonable that the Hornets sign and trade for him.
Ball brothers.
Because even then, you can't sign and trade two players for each other, and that's what the rumor would be, is that it would be Devontae Graham for Ball. So then it'd have to be two separate deals, and I don't know. I think Lonzo wants to go big market. If Lonzo does go to Chicago, which is my prediction, I bet you by the time people are listening to this,
it seems pretty
likely. The Knicks are also a viable option. But if he goes there, I think Chicago will become everybody's favorite sleeper team. Every year there's a team that's like the sleeper team, but then too many people are on board. That was
Miami a couple years ago.
Yeah. So I think that'll be Chicago. He fits what they need really well. He's another playmaker. He's another great shooter. I think, and that team has two All-Stars. It's easy to forget, but that team has two All-Stars, and Zach LaVine is legitimately good. I think
good.
Yeah, I think a lot of these moves are making it seem like the East is becoming more and more competitive. And I think the gap between them and the West after this free agency class might not be all that big, if it's there at all.
Well, the East and West gap has always been overblown to me, because if you look at the champions from the past couple of years, the Bucks, the Raptors, like the Cavs won it recently. It's not like the West just runs these championships, but the numbers I've seen for the Lonzo deal are 4 years, $80 million, which slots him in as like the 11th, 10th, the borderline top 10 paid as a point guard, right below Malcolm Brogdon at an average of $20 million a year. And I think that's pretty fair. That's about where I would.
Good. Like getting that type of deal in free agency, that's pretty strong. Usually you have to I'm pro overpaying guys a little bit if it's what you have to do to add talent. But I don't think $20 million. That sounds about right.
That's because you're a Hornets fan, and that's all.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. If the Hornets cap space is not worth the same amount to every team, like the Lakers having $30 million in cap space is not even remotely the same thing as the Hornets having $30 million in cap space. So I don't think the Bulls have any better options, outside of using that money on Lonzo Ball. So I think it's a good contract.
Yeah, but definitely, a good facilitator to get the ball to the two All-Stars. I mean, that's but at the same time, I think of like Ball, LaVine, and Vucevic. Like that's a big three, but it's like not a great big three. Like I don't know if that's like a.
I mean, is anyone? You don't even have to look at it as like the Bulls to win the finals,
right? Yeah, like if you look at them as like a contending team, you're like, ugh. But if you look at them as like a team that wants to win a playoff series, and then we'll see what happens.
Yes.
Yeah. They'll definitely be better than they were last year.
Yeah. And then I've seen some Rose reunion talk too, and I don't know if that's just Bulls fans who love Derrick Rose hoping or legit.
He's a free agent, and it's not guaranteed that the Knicks keep him. I think the Knicks do end up keeping him, especially if they don't get DeRozan or Ball. It's like they're going to spend the money on somebody. And since Rose was so good for them in the playoffs, I think they'll end up keeping him. But if they don't want to, I don't see why it wouldn't make sense for him to go to Chicago.
Speaking of the Knicks, there's always so much optimism and hope by Knicks fans that they're signing every good free agent that exists. Do you think they'll be snagging anyone, or do you think everyone will just kind of file into other teams and they'll be kind of left out to dry?
I don't want to say that they're going to get nothing, but from the reports I've heard, all the big guys are not like, it doesn't sound like they're going to get Lonzo. It sounds like he's going to the Bulls. It doesn't sound like they're getting DeRozan. It doesn't sound like they're getting Kyle Lowry. So if you're them, what do you do? I think the big thing that this might change is how aggressive are they then going for like Dame if he requests a trade, if Portland doesn't make the moves that he wants them to do. Because beforehand, I would have been like, well, maybe they're not as aggressive as you'd want them to be because they have cap space, so they can kind of go add talent other ways, whereas like a team like the 76ers might not have any other great options. Now, who knows? When do they think their timeline is?
I'd also be very dubious if I was them going into next year, banking on Julius Randle to do what he just did again. Like, I know that he just had this all-star season, but like after what he did in the playoffs, and it's like, it's almost a bubble setting where it's like, no one's in the crowd. It's just kind of a weird. And then once the lights got bright, he just totally turned back into a pumpkin. If his trade value isn't going to get any higher than it is right now, and you can go trade him for a real, like, legit superstar, I would heavily consider trading Randall while his value is high right now, because I don't know if he's actually about it.
I don't know if the Knicks are thinking about doing that just from like what will happen standpoint. Yes. But it's a little disappointing that there isn't a huge free agent class because you hear, I made a TikTok about this. You hear year after year, the Knicks we're going to get this guy and this guy and this guy, and they never do. And finally, it would make sense this year for players to go there. And it just doesn't seem like it's working out that way. Apparently, though, Kawhi Leonard is going to listen to other offers. I don't know if that really means anything. I don't know if it's serious, but I saw that report. My guess is that he's going to end up back on the Clippers. But if I'm New York, I'm at least talking to him.
I mean, you have to, right? It's like, what
you
else
you can make a pretty strong pitch. If you can bring back Rose and Kawhi and have Randall and maybe RJ Barrett takes another step, that's a strong team. Yeah. Or at least a team good enough to make it a genuine pitch. We're in a big market. We were a 4 seed last year. You're a superstar. Let's do this thing. I think Kawhi would at least consider it.
Yeah. But considering the fact that with Kawhi, the Clippers were probably in the finals, I would assume that he's back. Yeah. I would assume that he's back.
Yep. I can't disagree.
Okay, so one more question for you, Theo. Do you think Chris Paul stays with Phoenix?
Yeah, I do. I do. He took that. If he would have opted in, that player, like that salary cap hit that would have happened for him would have been ridiculously high. He declined the player option, but I do think that he will intend to sign back in Phoenix for a little bit of a lower short-term cap hit, but maybe a longer long-term deal, which kind of works out well for everyone and gives the Suns some money to work this offseason. And because like the Lakers were kind of the destination that everyone thought he might go to, and that spot has already been filled by Russell Westbrook. I don't see him leaving Phoenix and going to some other situation. The only one I could have seen is the Lakers. But like, do we really think he's going to leave and go sign in, I don't know, some other team? Like, is there a team that he believes is going to give him a better chance? I don't think so. I think he'll re-sign maybe a couple years in Phoenix, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. If I'm him, I feel like the reports are that like it's not even a question he's going to Phoenix. Apparently, he's staying. But I think there's some teams you could consider. Like, what if you signed for they have $54 million in cap space. What if you sign to the Knicks for a little bit of a cheaper deal, a little bit long-term to guarantee the money, and then you have a max slot? Can you attract somebody else that way? Or what can the Mavs do? I mean, they have Luka and they have the money for you. So I'm surprised that he isn't looking around a little bit more. But I guess it's tough to leave a team that just made the finals.
That's kind of what my thing is. It's like there are probably teams that would be as good as Phoenix but it's just an unknown. Like you don't want to end up stuck on a Knicks team and then you just abandon a good situation and now you're on the Knicks and they didn't attract another star because it's a weak free agent.
Right.
I think the culture in Phoenix is good. I think he's good. And a lot of people don't like Chris Paul is the thing. So it's like he might not want to go somewhere with like people who don't like it. I don't know. But like, I think Chris Paul found a good spot to I think he has as much confidence as in the Suns as anyone does probably after just going to the finals. So I don't know. I think like he likes it in Phoenix and that's a big thing too at this point. I think that they can succeed. I think it's a good culture. I think he likes it there. Monty Williams has been with him like all the time in his career in New Orleans and in Oklahoma City and now in Phoenix, and those two are tight. So like from a personal standpoint and from like an enjoyment of your life standpoint, I think he'll stay in Phoenix.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that kind of wraps things up for the NBA. So let's hop into some NFL news. So first, Carson Wentz, has suffered a little bit of an injury. He's poised to be out for 5 to 12 weeks. And I made a video about this. I haven't posted it. That I think this throws a huge wrench in what the Colts are doing. And I predicted them to struggle to even go 500. And people called me crazy, right? But Carson Wentz is already super volatile and he's injury prone.
That's a very bold take that losing their starting quarterback.
No, I said this before. No, Matt. I said that they would be 8-9 before he got hurt.
I'll give you that. The one thing I feel that's weird about this, tell me if I'm dumb. 5 to 12 weeks is like a weird timetable.
It's a very
I've never heard that before. Window. That is a huge
No, that's like
window.
months. And what also is weird is we don't know what the injury is. It's just something is wrong with his foot. And then
he's getting surgery.
Well, at first he was like, no, I'm not. I'm just going to rehab it. I'm not going to get surgery. And then his coach was like, he's getting surgery. So the Carson Wentz era is off to on the wrong foot. Ha ha ha. But like, that's just such a mess.
You're funny,
to begin. I'm funny, but it's like, it's such a mess to begin like this. Like Carson is like, I'm not getting surgery. No one knows what the injury is. No one knows how long he'll be out. Colts are giving off very bad vibes right now.
Yeah.
I just did my prediction for them and I knew he was hurt. I didn't know how bad. I said 7-10 and people were mad at me. Like,
yeah, it's like, I understand why people are mad. They have a good defense. You know, they were a decent team last year. It's a solid defense. Solid.
It's okay.
They have a good offensive line. They have decent weapons. They were a decent team last year with Phillip Rivers. They think if Carson Wentz can be anywhere better, you know, in terms of, you know, deep playability or big playability, then maybe they'll be like a playoff team. But, you know, he's also one of the most volatile players in the league. And for every big play he has, you're looking at, you know, a big negative play as well.
And as far as their backups go, they've got Jacob Eason and they just signed Brett Hundley. But Jacob Eason is not someone I'm confident in. Like he was one of the worst. I mean, I didn't scout physical film until like this year. This was the first year I did it. But last year I was more making data models and more like trying to predict things like that. And maybe that is a bad way to do it. But I will say that Jacob Eason had the worst score in the model that I made of like all time. Like it was terrible. So I can't say like I'm very confident in him. But I don't think the Colts are going to add another quarterback because if they wanted to throw all these resources at the quarterback position, they would have done it already, you know, like they had so many press conferences this year where they're like, we just didn't want to give our entire future for a Matthew Stafford or a trade up for Justin Fields. Like we thought that Carson Wentz was a good, happy medium where we didn't have to give up too much. And also we get a good quarterback we feel confident in, but they were very happy that they only had to give up like a second, maybe a first round pick. But now they might have to throw more picks at other players. I don't think they want to do that. So I think they'll roll with Jacob Eason. And I feel like every game they play with him could potentially be a loss. So, and you know, that could be a lot of games.
I do not feel very confident in the Colts right now. And I know, Theo, you were licking your chops about Mariota.
Everything I say comes true, you guys. I say the Colts are going getting 7 wins, and this happens. I say you got to watch out for Marcus Mariota as a sleeper. If they trade for Mariota, like what would it cost to get Mariota? Maybe a 3rd round pick, a 2nd round. I feel like the Raiders would let him go for that, honestly.
I mean, he was a free agent this year. They cut him real late into free agency. Tell me if I'm like totally making this up. Did they not have him on a 2-year deal that was really big, and then they released him, and he didn't have any options because they did it so late in free agency?
I'm pretty sure he's still on the Raiders roster.
I'm not saying he's not on the Raiders roster. I'm saying this happened earlier this year.
Yes. No. Okay. He re-signed a reworked deal that was like no bread. It was like no money.
So I don't know. I don't know if Marcus Mariota, because the reason they were able to do that is because they kind of screwed him over. They said, I want to say, I don't want to be wrong about this, but I think he got released like a little bit later in the off season. So there weren't as many suitors who were willing to get him. So I don't know if it would cost like,
here's what I'm reading. It was previously reported that Mariota would not take the $3 million the team was offering, but he must not have found much interest outside of Las Vegas and instead signed a deal with incentives that could raise his payday up to $8 million. So no one else wanted to sign him, it looks like. But I mean, he's pretty good if you're desperate, and the Colts could be desperate. But at the same time, I don't think they want to throw more money or more resources at the quarterback position, because if they did, they would have done so like with Fields or with Stafford, and their press conferences have made it pretty clear that they liked not giving up that much for Wentz.
But do you think that they would, I mean, even the biggest Wentz believer would probably agree that it would not be a smart idea to go into the season with a backup that you don't at least like a little bit in case things don't work out.
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe they also trust Eason A little bit.
I think they trust Eason. Yeah, I think they do. I don't know if I trust Eason, but I think they do. I mean, they drafted him in the 4th round, which I thought was a little bit high, but like a 4th round pick is, you start 4th rounders, this isn't like it is day 3. It's the beginning of day 3, but like, that's a decent pick. Like you expect 4th rounders to be pretty good, or at least
I think,
startable.
Whatever they do, they're gonna have to have some trust in whoever they throw out there. It's just, that 5 to 12 week window. That's really what gets you, is you're just like, you're not sure if he's going to make it back for week 2 or like week 8.
Right.
And then even if he does, it's a guy who struggled last year and needed, a decent amount of work coming into a new system just in the middle of the regular season. That sounds like a worst case scenario,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I like the Colts a little bit less than I did before. Things aren't looking so good there. Talking about, other contracts though, Nicholas Jamal Chubb, an extension, $36 million or $36.6 million. I like the deal a little more than I thought I would. People obviously tagged me in it because I'm the guy who's like, don't pay running backs big money. And then we signed him to like $12 million a year. I just didn't want the Browns to go out and be like, here, Nick, here's 5 years, $75 million.
I'm going to have to call you on this, man. You said specifically
I wanted 8.
10 million.
I know.
You said under 10 million.
I wanted under 10. So I don't love this.
So you're not
deal,
allowed.
right?
Yeah, you're not allowed to like it. That's what I'm trying to say.
I like the deal more than I thought I would. Right? I don't love the deal. Right? I did not want the Browns to do this, but considering at the end of the contract he's going to be like 28, right? So he's still kind of in his prime. I can't be that mad at it. I really can't.
Yeah.
It's what, $6 million guaranteed per year works out to $20 million guaranteed for 3 years. So really, you're kind of looking at $6 million guaranteed a year with some incentives that he may or may not hit. I think Nick Chubb is a total baller and the best pure runner in the league with the ball in his hands. Like I think, like I said in my video, I think he's the closest thing the league has to Adrian Peterson right now. Like he is like that special with the ball in his hands. So to get that for $6 million a year by itself is pretty good. I do question paying him and Kareem Hunt, because then I
don't think they're keeping Hunt long term.
There's no way. They don't even I'm pretty sure they're negative in the cap space next year. And they don't, Garrett's probably their only starting defensive lineman who's on the roster. So they have some tough choices to make. The Browns have been a team that's had a ton of money for, it seems like forever.
They're not trading Hunt. Browns.
They're not going to they're going to let him walk after this year. That's
probably
my bet.
Yeah, that could happen.
I don't think they'll trade him now to build for the future, because I don't know how much Hunt really lands you if he's on a contract year.
Yeah. And
I think they're in win now mode, so I'd probably just keep him.
And then best case scenario, if you do win it all, he stays for less money. Right? That's your hope. That's your best.
Or you have your ring and you let him walk. Because right now the Browns team,
that too.
The Browns team on paper looks good right now, and that's what matters. We'll see where it goes. But they are giving up a lot of resources to the running back position. But by itself, the Nick Chubb contract is palatable in my eyes.
I think he's the second best running back in the NFL, and he's making like the 6th most money. So I'm not mad at it, but I don't love it, but I'll live with it.
You did go back on your word.
I did not go back on my word. I did not go back on my word. I said I wanted the Browns to either sign Nick Chubb for under 10 million or trade him. They signed him for 12 points. So
they did not do what you wanted.
Yeah, they didn't do exactly what they didn't do exactly what I wanted, but I'm not just going to be like, screw the Browns. I'm not a fan of this team anymore.
I wasn't saying you do that.
It was like, okay, so what do you want me to do? Just be like furious?
We're asking you to be negative. We want you to be more negative.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
No, Matt, I'm not. Like that's.
Yeah, well,
we know.
It really isn't that hateable. It really isn't that hateable.
I've been saying the Browns would win the Super Bowl for years.
Yes.
All right, let me have this, okay? Anyway, moving on. Belichick was saying that Cam is their quarterback, and that but he also says that they're starting from scratch. And Matt, you're the big Cam fan here. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Cam Newton is looking really good in camp so far, and the way that you can tell is not only that you can go see some highlights from him. There's been some film videos where he's throwing some lasers and the shoulder looks good. But if he was doing even a little bad, you'd be hearing about it right now. I can promise you. I don't think that he is guaranteed the starting job right now. And I know maybe that Belichick quote reads as like, he's our quarterback. And I think he is. He's the quarterback one. And I think he will win the job. But I think Belichick was just saying that as for now, rather than we've already made our decision, because you don't draft a guy first round and then choose before even preseason starts. That doesn't seem
unless you're the Bears.
Oh yeah, I guess. But that's
unless you're the Bears.
It's a little bit different situation here. So I think Cam will win it. I don't think Belichick might.
It's so obvious to me what's going to happen. Cam will be the week 1 starter, and if he sucks, he's benched. Bang, done. That's what's going to happen.
Why would you do it any other way?
Yeah, that's how it's going to go.
That's what Cam the Browns did with Tyrod and Baker. Like,
Cam will be the week 1 starter. If he sucks, he's benched. That's what's going to happen in New England. All the speculation on what's going to happen, I promise you that's what's going to happen. Moving on.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of guys who look good in camp, though, Trey Lance, Theo, like, come on. We got to be feeling great, right? Like,
I do feel good. And it's not even so much that Trey Lance has looked good in camp. It's that Jimmy Garoppolo has also looked bad, is what I've heard. He's thrown some ducks. He's not taking shots down the field. It's all very short. Lance, as I've been saying this whole time, is a football genius. He is a football mastermind, is what every report has been, that he is a monster on the whiteboards. He retains. He was new to the position. And he played for 1 year at North Dakota State, right? Like, that's why he went to North Dakota State, is because no one else wanted him because he didn't have much experience. Came in, did not turn the football over one time in his first year. I'm telling you, this guy is a football prodigy. He is I think he is mentally probably ahead of even where Garoppolo is. Physically, he's ahead of where Garoppolo is. And I know Shanahan came out and said it's not a quarterback competition. Jimmy G is going to start until Lance is ready. Lance is more ready than Garoppolo is. I literally think Lance is a genius. That's
what I've been hearing. I've been hearing a lot of reports saying that, and these are obviously not internal people in the 49ers organization, but people that are just at camp watching, they're like, Lance could and should start week 1. He looks that good. And I haven't seen a lot of footage from it, but I'll trust the people that have been there.
Is Jimmy Garoppolo like a known training camp choker at this point? Because I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was I feel 2 or 3 years ago, didn't Garoppolo have some horrific sort of 5 straight interception camp thing, and it was a big story. I do
kind of remember that,
right? This guy just sucks in training camp, maybe.
Or maybe just not a good quarterback.
It probably doesn't. It's probably partially because
he's fine.
He is getting paid so much money too, and they can trade him. So his contract is so tradable. If I was the 49ers, I would literally be begging the Colts to take him. His contract is so movable, and if they don't move it, it's so expensive to be probably the worst quarterback.
We just talked about, are the Colts going to want to give up anything?
Probably not, but people, I've seen speculation for Garoppolo. They should make a move for Garoppolo. The problem there should be the Colts don't want him, not the 49ers.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I do kind of think Lance will start. That's kind of my gut feeling at this point, which kind of leads us into our next point, or I guess leads us into the main chunk of this episode, which is Dark Horse Player Awards for this upcoming season. Obviously, it's a little too early, but just for the fun of it, we're going to predict our favorites for the 2021, season, talk about the Vegas favorites to win, and then, we're going to give some guys who we think maybe could sneak in, who could, guys who could surprise a little bit. And I think we'll just start with, we would start with MVP, but that's too easy. We'll start with Defensive Player of the Year. Vegas' favorite is Aaron Donald, which obviously he's Aaron Donald. My favorite, maybe I'm biased, Myles Garrett.
I've got Myles Garrett too. I think he's too talented not to win one of these years. I think in his career at one point he'll collect the Depoy Award. And And the Browns will be really good right now. The narrative might kind of fall in his favor. That was my
here's the thing. Myles Garrett was on pace to win it last year before he got COVID.
Yeah.
And then we know that like COVID just like messes with you after. So like he just wasn't the same coming back. This year, I obviously workout videos don't mean anything, but have you seen this man work out? Myles Garrett is a freak of nature.
Yeah. Edge, as far as an edge rusher goes, he's very like the most similar thing I've seen to like Von Miller. Prime Von Miller is probably the scariest edge that I've seen, like him and JJ Watt. And Myles Garrett's bend and his power and his like everything. He's too talented not to win one of these years. Obviously, Aaron Donald could very easily TJ Watt, but my pick is Myles Garrett. I think that he was on pace, and he's got the talent.
I don't even know if I have a dark horse. It's just my.
I don't have a
Brian
dark
Burns.
horse.
Brian Burns.
Matt's very upset. Matt's like, please.
Brian, no, I'm agreeing.
I thought you were like, why'd you take my guy?
No. Brian Burns is a demon, and he's been underrated so far in his career a little bit. I think the line up front is a little bit better. I think he's got a little bit more help. So if he ends up being the guy where his pressures just convert to sacks, because a lot of it is just like, can you get those plays to really happen for you? Some years they do, some years they don't. It wouldn't be unreasonable.
And here's the thing. I think last year, Aaron Donald changed the way people are going to look at Defensive Player of the Year forever. Because last year was the first year there was a narrative that was like double team rate is a thing. How often are they double teamed? How often are they generating pressure? Before that has never been brought up. And they like changed the rules because TJ Watt was better than Aaron Donald in sacks and like every traditional
like
stat.
The major stats, yeah.
But Donald won it because they were like, TJ Watt didn't get double teamed. He was on such a stacked defensive line. Aaron Donald had to deal with like this crazy double team rate, and his pressure rate was still high, which I don't think is a bad way to look at it. I think that's a smart football analysis, but that's like the first time. Brian Burns was above average in getting double teamed last year, and he's always above average in pass rush win rate. That chart that helped out Aaron Donald so much last year also benefits Brian Burns a decent amount. So Brian Burns is a guy that I think is a deep sleeper. I don't even see him on the list of odds here. But he's someone that could, I think, come back and surprise.
I could see it as a sleeper, but like the problem with like Defensive Player of the Year, like winning it, is you have to beat out Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, and Aaron Donald. And I think that's just really hard to do. If I did have to give a dark horse, though, I kind of like Derwin James. I kind of like a healthy Derwin James, super athletic, can just be all over the field. I don't know. I just like what he can do with the safety position. Yeah. I feel like he can play everywhere, do a lot of different things.
And he's also a guy that you could make an argument for. When he was fully healthy, the Chargers were the best team in the league at defending tight ends. And since then, they're like one of the worst. So like if people are going to look at like a more analytical standpoint for Depoy, like Derwin James will probably have those, like if you can be they went from this to defending slot guys and defending tight ends. So I could see Derwin James. I don't know if I'd qualify him as a sleeper because he does have like he's in the top 10 in terms of odds.
Okay. I guess
another guy I want to bring up that isn't a sleeper, but I at least want to throw his name out there. Nick Bosa. People forget how good he was as a rookie. Like he was insane. He was so insane. Incredibly good. Yeah. And if he takes any sort of step at all from where he was that year, and a lot of it also but like the sacks just didn't convert for him. He could go nuts. He could be the guy who really breaks out as a pass rusher.
No, I agree with that. And people think I see a lot of Nick Bosa overrated, like dialogue. I don't understand where that comes from.
I remember when the Browns played the 49ers. Nick Bosa was a menace.
No, he's insane. He's so ridiculously good. And I don't remember the last time that a pass rusher came in and was that good that quickly as Nick Bosa. He really is insane.
No. Other than maybe like Myles Garrett.
It's like one of those like type of guys who's just like, geez. So I think he has a pretty fair shot at it, but I know his odds are like 4, so I can't call that my dark horse.
He can just be your pick. He can just be your pick.
That's fair.
Well, I probably don't like his odds over Garrett or Donald, but I do like his odds.
That's fair.
But I'll pick him. Make it more fun.
Yeah, make it more fun. I like that out of you, Matt. Moving on to Defensive Rookie of the Year. The favorite's Micah Parsons. I don't know if I like that at all. Like the Vegas favorite is Micah Parsons. Theo, I assume your favorite is going to be who's the guy Washington took?
Jamin Davis.
Yeah,
Jamin Davis. I thought I could use him as a sleeper, but he actually has the third best odds in the thing I'm looking at. So he's not even a sleeper. So I guess I like Jamin Davis even more than I liked Parson. And behind that defensive
he's
line.
He's going to get a ton. Yeah, he's in a great position to rack up some stats, and he's going to be a great player. And with Rivera there as coach, it's a very good pick.
Yeah. And so Jamin Davis, that's another guy who I was like, I liked him so much in the pre-draft process. And like, he wasn't getting a ton of hype. And then to see him go in the first round and then the Washington football team to be like, he was our number one defensive player on our board. I felt very vindicated because I think Jamin Davis is a total baller. He's my pick.
Yeah. I have a couple of guys I'm leaning. I like Patrick Surtain a lot. Patrick Surtain was probably my favorite defensive player coming out. Just because I think if you can play corner at a high level, especially in man coverage and be physical, that's like a really tough thing to do consistently. Surtain obviously did that. And being in Denver is obviously a great place to be, as far as defense goes. The other guy I like is the edge for Miami, Jalen Phillips.
He's also a baller.
I think he's in a good position. Again, a good defensive coach. And I think if anyone's going to, kind of come in, because that's the thing they needed was, kind of that elite edge defender. If anyone can come in and kind of fulfill that role, I think it would be him.
Yeah, and Ogba on the other side of him is good, so he'll get his opportunities.
Ogba doesn't get enough love. I love Ogba.
My pick probably right now, I'm going to have to go ahead and be a little biased, but I don't think it's unreasonable. J.C. Horn is not a bad pick at all.
No, not unreasonable. J.C. Horn's really good.
I think maybe the problem that Surtain is facing when it comes to winning Defensive Rookie of the Year is he going to be the number one guy?
Yeah,
he's like cornerback 2 or 3.
The narrative on him is going to be like, unless he just gets a ton of picks, is going to be like, oh, he wasn't guarding cornerback 1s. So if anyone else is like, fair. The narrative is not in his favor as someone who is like probably 4th on their depth chart right now.
Whereas like J.C. Horn is cornerback number 1, day 1, almost certainly. And he's been balling out in camp. He's already apparently had like 3 interceptions today or something. And I don't know if that says more about our quarterback play than it does about Horn himself. But he's got more about Horn. That's what I'm going to believe.
I've seen a couple Ramsey picks. I've seen a couple Ramsey picks on film. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what? You want to talk about guys who have looked good in camp? Greg Newsome for the Browns has looked pretty good. Now the only thing is it's kind of the same thing with Surtain. I don't know how much field time he'll be seeing. Because, they have Troy Hill, they have Greedy Williams, they have Denzel Ward. So it's like, who's going to be getting rotational time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who asked?
But, it's funny you mentioned that because someone actually DM'd me and was like, you know what, Blaiden, can you stop relating everything to the Browns? It's not always about the Browns. It is always about the Browns. I would just like to make that clear. It is.
No, but Horn, going back to Horn, yes, I agree with you, Matt. The narrative will be in his favor because as a cornerback 1, if he can I've got one sleeper I'm going to talk about really quick, and it's Javon Holland, who was my favorite safety coming out of the draft and ended up being the first one selected, which I was proud to see. But that guy's a ball hawk. He picked off 9 balls in 2 years at Oregon, which is a lot. And his catching is super. He had I saw him scrape a ball off the turf inches above the ground, really solid in coverage. And he's in Miami right now, and they've got, obviously they're amoeba blitzes. So I think he can definitely take advantage of having a big ball hawk there. I think he could get a lot of picks. So that's my deep D-Roy sleeper. That would be the last thing that I would say. But yeah, Horn's a good pick. I like that.
Well, moving on to Offensive Player of the Year, I think the obvious favorites are Mahomes, Derrick Henry. Honestly, I can't disagree with either of those. Maybe Chubb if he gets the touches. I could see Calvin Ridley. I think has been a popular option among sports fans online. But
I'm gonna roll with
who
just came to me. Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara has the potential to get a ridiculous number of touches. And it's a little hard to win those type of awards. I think running backs, any award, are a little bit of a disadvantage. But if he can get, because with Thomas out too, they're going to be feeding him the ball a lot, I think. Even though, I guess Latavius Murray and now Devonta Freeman are there, and that might make it tough. But if he gets the ball enough, he could totally win.
They're not good. I don't think they're going to take that many touches away from him. I like where your head's at.
No, I like that too, because Kamara he's at the very least on the exact same level as Christian McCaffrey. I don't think that there's really any discernible difference in their skill set. And honestly, I prefer Kamara a little bit because I think he's a better pure runner. But Sean Payton has kind of put the reins on him a little bit and kept him protected and not giving him all these touches.
Yeah.
This year, I wonder if they can do that.
They just kind of unleash the beast and let him go.
I was talking about Marquez Callaway as a sleeper. Now, you got the wide receiving core of Troutman, Marquez Callaway, and Dante Harris or Tre'Quan Smith.
Yeah.
Dude, you can't afford to not give the ball to Kamara.
Yeah. And the number to hit is 2,000 all-purpose yards. That's what you got to be shooting for.
I think he shatters that. No, I think he annihilates that realistically, because there's no way he doesn't. There's no way he doesn't get at least 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, he was at 1,688 last year with 21 total touchdowns. That's a monster season anyway, and he did it with only 187 carries.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Kamara's a really good pick, and probably, that might be the right call.
What are Kamara's odds right now?
I don't know. It's probably pretty high. And the other thing about this award is it's never going to go to a quarterback ever. This is for the best skill position player.
It has gone to quarterbacks
not anymore. Because last year it
went to Mahomes, didn't it?
No, it didn't. Offensive player of the year. It went to Derrick Henry last year. And if it was ever going to go to a quarterback,
not last year. When Mahomes won MVP.
No, it went to Michael
I thought
Thomas.
He was also. Was it Michael Thomas?
Quarterbacks have won this award before, but I think those days are over. I think the best quarterback wins MVP, and they don't give the second best quarterback offensive. Because if that were to be the case,
it's lame. Because if MVP is such a quarterback award now, that you have to have this award kind of be like a non-quarterback award to make it a little bit.
I don't think fun. I see quarterbacks in the odds here pretty high. I don't think a quarterback will ever win this award again, because if Mahomes didn't win it last year, it won't go to court. The precedent has been set that it goes to the best skill, and I like that better. So I don't think it's going to be a quarterback ever.
I think it's better. I just thought Mahomes had won it recently, but I guess not.
I don't think so.
I don't know if any of us can top Kamara. I know I was leaning Michael Thomas for a while, and then
yeah, that's who I was gonna say, and then he got hurt. I guess we just trust the Saints offense to not be horrible, and someone's going to
it's not even about trusting them to not be horrible. It's that Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara can just produce.
Yeah, they're also both really great.
They're such great players, and they just produce at such a high level, and there isn't a lot else. Where else are you going to go with the football other than to them? So it's like everything lines up for that, offensive player of the year spot. I think Mahomes probably not a very good pick. Derrick Henry's obviously possible, but there's a lot of weapons there also. Kind of the same thing with Nick Chubb and the Browns. I don't know if I have anyone else who
I've got Darren Waller. That's my boy right there.
That's Theo's guy. I've been waiting for.
That also counts as a sleeper because his odds are so low. But Darren Waller is ridiculously good, and I think with Henry Ruggs and John Brown there to stretch the field, you've got Darren Waller to, hit those underneath things. And to end 2020, his yardage was this: 13 catches, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 catches, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 catches, 112 yards, no touchdowns, 9 catches, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. Those games all happened in the last 5 weeks, plus 1 7-catch, 75-yard game. The dude, especially at the end of last season, was crazy. was crazy. And if he is getting if he is getting those double-digit targets like consistently, and I think he could because I think the weapons on the Raiders are weak, like that could be a historic tight end season. And that record,
it's not that high. I was going to say the same thing. A big part of him winning it would be like the narrative or like some sort of big accomplishment. And we're looking at under 1,400 yards for the record for tight end receiving yards. Plus, he's got an extra game.
Yes. So like if he beats that record as the best and kind of the only receiving weapon there, I like Waller. That's my pick. And it's a little bit under the radar, but because a tight end like doesn't win these awards, but I think like the narrative is in place.
Has a tight end ever won Offensive Player of the Year?
I doubt it.
I'm sure. You think a tight end's never won it? I can look at it right now.
Yeah, I would. If a tight end has never won it and he like annihilates the record.
Yeah, okay. Tight end's never won it. That's why the odds are so low.
And so if he beats but yes, that is why. But I think
if he shatters the record, he's the only receiving option on that team, really. Let's keep it real.
I mean, there are others.
You're gonna give it to Henry Ruggs?
That'll be what the media says about it. It'll be like if Waller starts balling out and it's clear that he's going to have a good shot to crush that record, because he could crush it. And then it'll be like, oh, a tight end's never won it before.
No, all the pieces are in place. I like him a lot as a sleeper pick. If you bet like $20 on it, you could win like 1,000. Maybe I'll do that in Vegas.
Well,
I'll talk to him. I'll see how he looks in practice. And if he looks good, I'll put the money down. If he doesn't, I'll change my pick.
We'll see how he looks in practice. Moving on to Offensive Rookie of the Year. The obvious Vegas favorite is Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that surprises anybody. My sleeper pick for a while has kind of been Javonte Williams, but then they brought in Melvin Gordon, right? So I don't know if
he was already there.
Yeah.
Was he? Or they
didn't
they like re-sign him? I thought he was like a free agent this year.
No, he's always been there.
He was just there? Okay. I thought there was like a big deal about keeping him or something. But anyway, my big deal was like, Javonte Williams, I think, if anyone could get, kind of some sleeper touches, it would be him. Again, kind of the same situation with Offensive Player of the Year. There's a lot of weapons there, so I don't know if I still want to lean that way. But if Trey Lance is the starter week 1, he's got to be getting some Offensive Rookie of the Year hype.
For sure. Yeah, I don't disagree. Any of those quarterbacks, if they start quick enough, are going to get the hype. I like Trevor Lawrence as the number 1 pick to do it. I know that's boring and lame and means that,
Yeah, Matt, you're boring.
I'm just taking the Mickey Mouse pick here. But
it's
Lawrence really is great, and they have weapons.
It's a quarterback award now. It's a quarterback, and it makes me so sad. Like, Justin Jefferson should have won it last year. Like, he had a better year as a wide receiver than Justin Herbert did as a quarterback. That's not even a
well, it's not even, I don't even know if it's necessarily about having the better year. It's that, to me, the way I saw it was Justin Jefferson has had one of the 3 best receiving seasons of the 21st century, of Randy Moss, Odell Beckham, and now Justin Jefferson.
For a rookie, right?
For a rookie,
like rookie receivers, like rookie receiving seasons, my bad. But like Herbert was like breaking the record of like Baker Mayfield that was set like 2 years prior, which was relatively, all things considered, a pretty easy touchdown record to break, considering, for some reason it took like 20 years to break Peyton Manning's touchdown record. And maybe we just had like a bad stretch of quarterbacks of like rookie pool. Yeah, Manning was just like so ahead of his time that it didn't matter. But like, right, like it was very obvious. Like Baker Mayfield came and broke that record 2 years later. Now Herbert comes in.
It should have been Quentin Nelson who won it. There was Saquon, Quentin Nelson, and Baker.
It was like
Baker
you're gonna give Offensive Rookie of the Year to an offensive lineman.
I mean, Quentin Nelson was the best rookie that year. So
I mean, he was. I agree, but how? But like, how do you quantify that?
I'm just saying. Well, I
agree with you.
Watching. I don't know.
I guess.
I'm just saying that it's a quarterback award now.
Imagine like, I feel like the NFL would have just like faced a lot of like backlash. Just like you gave it to an offensive lineman.
They don't give it to offensive linemen because half of the point of the awards is just like marketing the players. And they don't want to spend an award like that marketing an offensive lineman.
Yeah,
I agree that it's probably almost certainly going to be a quarterback, particularly with how good the quarterbacks are in this class. But I kind of like Bateman's odds. He's sitting there at plus 5,000, and I think that's kind of crazy. He has
Did you guys see the clip of Bateman torching?
Yeah, Bateman is
Marlon
extremely
Humphrey?
skilled. He came in as a first-round pick, and he has a very reasonable path to wide receiver 1 on that team. I know that the Ravens are not some hardcore, heavy passing squad, but he could put up very good numbers very, very early. I believe in the talent, and I believe in the situation. So,
yeah, no, Bateman is probably my guy too. Or if it's not going to be a quarterback, which it will be with Trey Lance potentially getting some looks pretty early, and just with Trevor. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is such a safe bet to like be really good, and like the division is so like I don't know, but it's just like so obviously to me going to either one of the quarterbacks, and my bets would either be Lance or Lawrence. Like, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I agree. Elijah Moore is someone who I've seen crushing it at Jets training camp. Like every time I open my feed, it's like Zach Wilson did to Elijah Moore, or Elijah Moore did something awesome. And Elijah Moore is awesome. So he might be another guy that has a pretty easy path to playing time as a rookie.
Kadarius Toney, I could see.
He's kind of a mess.
He's going to have a hard time being like the
it's
number
not.
one.
I don't think it's about being the number one. I think it's about
targets,
like.
I guess.
I feel like he could get the targets. I don't know. I feel like when you look at the way that offense is set up, right? Galladay is your kind of deep threat, red zone threat, and then you want to do those short passes to get into a rhythm. Tony's your guy.
Ingram, Shepard.
Giants fans hate Ingram. Giants fans hate.
Doesn't mean he's not going to get targets.
I'm sure he'll get. touches.
Saquon. Our producer says is a Giants fan, and he says we do hate Ingram. I get it.
See,
I get
I'm
it
not
too.
wrong about this. They hate Ingram.
No, but anyway, I don't know if Kadarius Toney is going to get the touches to be. You could also maybe a really deep sleeper would be Trey Sermon, or I guess that's not even because he's on the list here, so he's not even really that deep of a sleeper. Yeah. But if he's the number one,
you were going to say
the same way about. I feel the same way about him as I do with. I'm just blanking on his name. We just talked about him.
Williams?
The Giants wide receiver.
Oh, Tony.
Tony. I don't know if Sermon gets the touches because that's like a very shared backfield.
I know, but like if Mostert gets hurt, I could see him being a lead back. But that's like I wouldn't bet on it. But like if you want a sleeper, but anyway, I would say Lawrence or Lance are pretty safe. If it's not one of those two, I would be surprised. Pitts, I guess, is the other guy.
Oh yeah, we went that whole segment without mentioning Kyle Pitts. Falcons fans, we are horribly sorry we didn't do Pitts justice. But let's move on to comeback player of the year. I think the obvious Vegas favorite is Dak, and it'll probably go to him if he looks as good as everyone thinks he will. But Odell, Odell's got to be in there.
Comeback player of the year has got to be like the most narrative award of all time. It's literally just narrative.
It's all story. It's all.
Alex Smith was like the worst starting quarterback in football last year, and he won it. And they want his like name retired because he just came back from the worst injury. So it wasn't even like how good you were. It was just like
honestly, you got to give him props.
I like it. That's how I think the award should work. But it's totally narrative based. Right now, the big known guy is Dak. I think Odell could also win it if he just goes nuts. Christian McCaffrey was hurt. Maybe they could throw his name in the ring, but I don't know if he really has that type of injury where it's like good enough for comeback player of the year. I don't know.
He doesn't have the story, man.
It's going to be Dak. It's going to be Dak because I remember him getting hurt so clearly, and he was crying coming off the field, and like all the team. It was just like that. Of all the injuries that happened last year, and there was a lot of them, the Dak one was like the most sad. And he's in a situation.
It like rippled the league. Like people were like, thrown by it.
No, it was so sad. And like the image, and like when Odell got hurt, everyone is like, what a diva. They're better without him anyway. So like,
no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That's exactly what happened.
No, so like
to a T. Yeah, no, it'll probably go to Dak, and Dak's expected to have like a big season. I think we're both, or all three of us, are even really high on the Cowboys. I don't know, Matt. If
Burrow, Saquon, Nick Bosa, like you said, Matt, if he has really good.
Yeah, Burrow's another good one.
Burrow, like Von Miller. There's a lot of guys who were hurt last year. Kittle, like there's Jameis, like Derwin James, like
it'll either be Burrow or Dak. Burrow is the only one I can see with a good enough story to compete with Dak.
They really want to give it to quarterbacks. Saquon as well. I should have thought about him.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Saquon. Okay, yeah, if I had to give a top 3, Dak, Burrow, Saquon.
Yeah, but Dak has the best odds by far, and he would have to suck to not have a good season. So it'll probably be him. Moving on to last but not least, the MVP of the league.
The MVP. It's going to be Matt.
For the Lions?
Yeah, for Detroit. Yeah, for Detroit. Matt's going to win MVP.
We'll see. I don't know if it's a quarterback
Matt's
award.
Holding
I'm not
out.
sure if I'm. That's true. First off, I'm not even at camp right now. The offset language has just been killer, and I'm not budging. So we'll see if I actually end up playing week 1. But
regardless, you don't need all 17 games to win MVP.
For my MVP pick at least. I'm going Josh Allen. I'm going to mix.
That's such a good pick because
I love Josh Allen.
The more I think about it, the more I think he could have won last year because they didn't. He was like 99% of their offense. Like they didn't run. He threw it so much. Like he was. Like you could have. If you really pushed that narrative hard last year, I think I could have gotten a lot. Like Josh Allen was 100% of what they did last year.
Because now I think his 2 biggest threats are the guys who've won it the last couple of years, in Mahomes and Rodgers. And I think voter fatigue is at least a little bit of a thing. And I think if Allen, it's not impossible to believe that he could build on what he did last year. I mean, he really is just such an insane talent. And he's just so fun to watch. And he genuinely is one of the most valuable players in the league. I don't see how.
I like Allen a lot. The only thing is, and I love my analytics and my data. The data disagrees with you hard.
Okay, well, the data would say that anybody in the MVP race last year is probably going to regress because having an MVP season.
Well, it's not even about like having an MVP season. It's about that Allen is coming off 2 seasons where he was like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL.
But see, that's not how we should be looking at it. It's not like he's just been the same guy and all of a sudden he had 2 bad seasons and 1 good one. He's been getting steadily better. I see it as real.
It was like a slight increase and then a massive jump.
No, it wasn't. It was 2 massive increases. He was horrible his rookie year, and massively.
I don't know if I would consider that second year a massive increase.
It was one of the biggest increases that I know Football Outsiders has ever measured analytically, and he still wasn't that good because he was just so bad his rookie year. So it was still on, and then he went on with another
2019 to 2020. PFF had as the biggest increase of any quarterback production in the history of the NFL.
Yes. So, but I think that he's a safe bet to do what he did again, because I mean, it's just, he's like you said, the closest thing to kind of the league has to Cam right now. The dude is a tank. He has the biggest arm in the league. He can run, and he has loaded wide receiving core and good coaching staff. And the offensive line isn't super great, but I just don't see him.
And we're confident the whole team is going to be good, so records shouldn't be a problem. I don't know. I see what you're saying about the regression thing, Blaiden, but I think
I just don't know if I would bank on him. It's not
random statistical odds like of him just getting better numbers one year because that's the way it worked out. I think it's him genuinely being better. And if you watch, you could definitely tell.
Yeah, no, I agree that he looked awesome last year. Made a lot of really good throws. Diggs is obviously going to be great. They added weapons at receiver. So, I mean, yeah, I could see it. I just don't know if I would lean. I kind of feel like, it's obvious to go Mahomes. It's like, it's so hard to pick against Mahomes. It really is.
Mm-hmm. In case of a tie, though, it won't go to Mahomes just because he's in the best situation.
Mahomes, voter fatigue, like Matt
Mahomes probably had like technically a better season than Rodgers did last year. If you're gonna really make a statistical argument, but it still went to Rodgers pretty easily. Even Josh Allen had more votes than Mahomes did last year. Mahomes got no votes last year, it'd
be kind of lame if nothing against Mahomes, cool guy, like him, fun to watch. It'd be cooler if it was a new guy. And I think that type of stuff matters. It shouldn't, but it does.
And it's he is kind of in a loaded situation where it's he, no matter what happens, and now that they've improved the offensive line, there will always be, look at not LaFleur, look at Reed and Kelsey and Tyreek and the offensive line, or Orlando Brown and Joe Thuney. Like, Mahomes literally needs to be head and shoulders above other people to win the award. Because if it's close, it won't go somewhere else. And my original pick was Mahomes. I might also change it to Allen, just because he'll have the narrative of no running game, and they ask him to do all this. Like he throws it more than just about anyone does. They're big believers in throwing it all over the yard. So I might change mine to Allen.
If we're going narrative, then yeah, it'll probably. I don't know if anyone has a better narrative than Allen. There was my dark horse pick for a minute was a Kyler, and I might still stick with that as my dark horse, just because I feel like, that offense is, you want to talk about an offense that is totally reliant on their quarterback. That's the Cardinals. When Kyler isn't operational, when he got hurt last year, the offense was horrible. It was a disaster. If he's fully healthy this year, and I know everyone's like, "Whoa, Cliff Kingsbury sucks as a coach." If that offense can kind of get humming, because we talked about they ran a lot of hurry up last year. If they can get humming in that kind of an offense, I could see it going to Kyler. I don't know. Kyler is really, really good, and if he can stay healthy, that offense is so dangerous.
My deep sleeper, 100-1 odds right now is Matt Ryan. If you can get Matt Ryan,
I have him written down too.
Yeah. Matt Ryan reuniting with an offensive coordinator that's a little bit Shanahan-esque in Arthur Smith. Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts is not a bad wide receiving core. I think he's still a pretty underrated quarterback. I think that I don't think he'll win. No, but like at 100
well,
to 1
the last time Matt Ryan had, a brilliant offensive mind, he won MVP.
He's below Jameis Winston in odds. It's like Jameis is not going to win MVP throwing to Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith. Like, sorry. Yeah. And I guess you could maybe go with Kamara if he puts up a ton of yard. Like, I think that's a narrative.
If Kamara is by far the best,
the touches.
Kamara is by far the best.
They're gonna. Maybe he gets the receptions, but I really feel like the Saints are committed to not rushing him a ton, and that they really like Latavius Murray. And I think Devonta Freeman, maybe he makes the roster and also gets some.
But touches. If he can crack 2,000 yards, and also the Saints are any good with Jameis Winston throwing to like
Saints
nobody's.
Make the playoffs, and like Kamara is by far the leading force, I could see it.
Or if Taysom Hill has to take over and then the team is still good and Kamara just goes nuts and has like a ton of touchdowns again, maybe that is the scenario where he starts getting MVP.
Or maybe that's just a recipe for a Sean Payton Coach of the Year and he gets all the credit and the MVP goes to a quarterback.
We haven't talked about Coach of the Year, likely. But Sean Payton could be in that argument. You know what? You know who we didn't talk about though? Stafford.
Stafford's another guy who could.
Stafford's got to be up there in that top tier of conversation.
We've talked about him a lot. We like him a lot.
That's fair. Yeah,
he's not my number one pick, but it's not totally insane to think about. He's not a dark horse.
He's going to be
my
number one pick.
One more is also like if the Buccaneers go something like you win 14, 15 games, Brady might get it just because he's Brady and people just like to hand him things.
If Brady got an MVP at 44 years old, the narrative would be unbelievable.
I mean, it would be more of this. It would be more of the same. But like,
it would be
he could also,
First of all, it would be really. First of all, if he put up a good enough season to win MVP at 44, it would be. I know we're like Peyton Manning goat truthers. It would be really hard.
It would get pretty hard to deny.
It would be really hard to keep that narrative
because my narrative is based on like Peyton Manning, most valuable player ever, has 5 of them. But anyway, all that. But yeah, if Tom Brady turns in an MVP season, I'll probably stop fighting it. But anyway.
Yeah, I can lean with you there. But I think that kind of wraps things up on our end. We said it was a jam-packed episode. We weren't kidding. Preseason and Hard Knocks are on the way. NBA free agency moves will be in full swing. We have a ton of content coming your way on TikTok.
The next time we record a podcast, it'll be a game day. It'll be the Hall of Fame game, won't it, on Thursday?
Oh man, it will.
Oh,
and we'll
you're right.
Able to talk about like NBA free agency and not moves that are probably going to be completed by the time this episode drops.
Be awesome.
Excellent.
Super exciting stuff coming to TikTok, the YouTube, the podcast channels. Make sure you don't miss out. And as always, from you know what, I don't know how we want to do these nicknames. Do we want to stick with Corn Boy? Are you okay with being Corn Boy?
I'm cool with Matt.
Okay. Theo, what do you want to be? Do you want to be Shark Boy?
Sure.
Do you want
to be pretty cool.
Or do you want to be Dunk Boy?
You can be Lava Girl. I'll be Shark Boy.
I've been thinking that every time you brought that up. I've been thinking
You've been thinking, I didn't
Lava
even
girl,
realize
yeah.
that's funny. Well, from Matt, Shark Boy, and Lava Girl, that, you know what? Nah, I'm Lemon Boy still. You know what? Doesn't really matter. We'll catch you guys on the Flippity Flop. Thank you so much for watching.